So now, after we complete our air portion, here we enters into the domain of water. The very chemical formula which you all are acquainted with is H2O, that is water. Now, before entering into the very concepts of water as a wonder liquid or water as a liquid of our sustaining life, I would just like to ask you that can you stay without drinking water for one day? I hope when your mother runs after you with a glass of water saying, "Beta, please you drink this water or else it will cause you harm," you say no, make your faces, drive her away. But when you are thirsty, you die for getting water to get some wetness in your dry throat. Am I clear? So, I may not be able to make you understand what is the importance of water until you yourself are not realizing that water is very, very essential, indispensable, or without which we can't survive. As I've already discussed, 75% of the Earth's surface is covered under water bodies, and that's why when we go in space, the satellite image of Earth is totally bluish. Majority of the portion is bluish. Coming to the first point, large areas of Earth's surface as even underground are covered with water. Underground water means the water which is present below the layer of the soil, and above the sources are sea, oceans, rivers, lakes, ponds, waterfalls, and so on and so forth. So large area of Earth's surface is covered by water, and even the underground portion are covered. Now there are three forms where we can make a categorization of water: fresh water, saline water, and underground water. Fresh water are those found which near the ice caps, polar regions, and the glaciers. Why they are fresh? They are called fresh because they are directly coming from the mountains and hill ranges. Why they are not saline? Because there is no salt present in them. Now, the second category of water is saline water, that is water found in sea, oceans. Now, a question may come in your mind that why this water is saline, why not that water was saline? When the water you are receiving from that of snow or ice after melting, there is no salt present in them. But when that melted water through the river comes to sea, they collect the soil particles. And the soil particles, the gravels, the sand particles, they all bear ions. Sodium and potassium itself are present in every type of soil. Even anions, like negative ions like chlorine, like phosphorus, they are also present. So definitely if I get a sodium ion and a chloride ion together, they will form NaCl, that is Na plus and Cl minus, and they will form salt, that is NaCl, the formula of salt. That means when the water is flowing through its course and reaching to the sea, they are collecting the soil particles, they are collecting the sand particles and getting the ions, which one forms the water saline. So next category is saline water. And the third category is underground water, that is water which is found beneath the soil after absorption of the fresh water. So if I on the basis of the presence of the salt, I can categorize water into two: fresh water and saline water. Fresh water means those which are not having the salinity, perfect for our consumption, and saline water is not perfect for our consumptions. They are first processed and then used for us. Just remember the three types of solution you have been taught in the chapter of cell: hypertonic, hypotonic, and isotonic. Let us forget the isotonic. Concentrating on hypertonic solution, just remember we had a cell, and the cell was having more water concentration and less salts. More water, less salts. And outside the cell, there was less water and more salt. So the water from the cell was moving outside the cell and reaching to the surrounding, and the cell was becoming shrinkled. Again I am repeating, water inside the cell was more, water outside the cell was less. Salt inside the cell was less and salt outside the cell was more. And how the water moves? From lower concentration to higher concentration. Water was having high here but salt was less. So now the water is moving from here to outside. And when it is moving from here to outside, the cell is becoming shrinkled. Similarly, in case of hypotonic, just the reverse was there. In case of hypotonic, the water inside the cell was less and salts were more, and water outside the cells were more and salts were less. So as the principle of osmosis, water will move from higher concentration to lower concentration. So it moved inside the cell and it got bulged out and burst. Just compare this with this condition. The condition is osmoregulation. I will come to this, just remember. Now, if I say why fresh water is required, this is because of the fact that if we go on taking saline water, our condition will be like that of a hypotonic cell. That is, more salt in the cell, less water. So water from outside the cell will gush inside our body cells and ultimately we will die. So fresh water is very, very required. Now coming to the portion that availability of this fresh water varies from place to place. So what are the two types of fresh water we have got till now? Underground and rivers and lakes. That is fresh water. That is not saline. So the availability of fresh water varies how? In summer season, in the urban areas, whatever be the condition, there will be scarcity of water because extra consumption of water is there. But in case of rural areas, what will happen is the people have no idea or they lack technological advancement, and that is why they have to suffer a lot and cover huge distances in getting small amounts of water. So availability of fresh water is something that varies. In summer, it is going to vary every year. That's a consideration, and it has to be changed as per the requirements of the individuals. Now coming to the next point is why water? Why do we need water? As you can see, the fresh water is underground, river and lakes. So why do we need water is very important, and it's very easy also. We need water because all the cellular process occurs in water. All the types of cellular processes occurs in fluid medium, that is water. Second is all reactions inside the cell and outside the cell is occurring in fluid medium, that requires water. Third point is for transferring of substances from one place to the another place of the body, we need water. And to maintain osmoregulation, we need water. What is osmoregulation? This osmoregulation is nothing but this maintain of the salt-water ratio. As I was telling you that if we have more of salts in our cell and less of water, our condition will be like that of hypotonic, and reverse will be in case of hypertonic. And both the cases are not liable for a good living. So what we have to remember is we need water because of four reasons. One is all cellular process occurs in water, all reactions in cell and in body occurs in case of water, transfer of substances occurs via water, and to maintain osmoregulation we need water. So the next point that we are going to deal with it is how the distribution of water affects the population density of a particular place. We human beings, still now, though we have made progressive events in our day-to-day life and has consulted and made wonderful discoveries, but we are never ever satisfied by what we do and want more and more at the virtue or at the cost of our nature. And at the cost of our nature, when we are doing something, we are definitely causing havoc. Here also there is water pollution being caused due to our extra greed. So water pollution is that condition when we cannot consider the water to be consumable. That is, adequate amount of pollutants are present in the water that is causing the water not legible enough to be consumed by living organisms. So what are the reasons behind water pollution? The first reason is the fertilizers. The fertilizers used in the fields for the growing of crops and other pulses are being drained out, and ultimately it disturbs the underground water as well as the river system in which it is drained. So the fertilizers causes a great amount of water pollution. The second one is sewage. Sewage, that is the waste products coming out from various types of living organisms, even human beings, are being drained in water bodies for disposal, and definitely that disposal is causing water pollution in that concerned water body. The third point is water after industrial treatment. In many of the industries where there is involvement of heat, what happens after production of certain materials, those are being cleaned by the water, and what the industries does, after cleaning, that water is again drained back to the river body or to the source from which it has been obtained. So definitely that water is polluted and pollutes the entire river body. So water from industrial treatment pollutes the water and causes water pollution. Fourth point is dams released water. Dams are the reservoirs of water which is meant for generating electricity, hydroelectricity. So what happens is the water is raised to a certain height and they are stored there. So the water stored in the reservoir will have a very cool temperature, and when they will be released in order to generate the hydroelectricity, they will reach to their original source, and that cooled, extra cooled water after reaching to their original source makes that original source also viable to that of pollution. So the fourth is the water released from the dams pollutes the water. The fifth point is transportation. The steamers, the ships that are moved across the water bodies are run by petrol. The petrol after burning causes, the combustion of the petrol causes pollution of the water by release of suspended carbon particles, and ultimately the water is harshly polluted. So these are the 5 reasons for which it is considered the major 5 reasons due to which water is getting polluted: fertilizers from the field, sewage from the living organisms, water after industrial treatment, the dams which release water colder in temperature causes havoc, and finally is transportation, that is the ships and the boats and the steamers that run on water by the help of petrol disturbs the transportation. The sixth point can be human intervention, where the fishermen use the fish nets, the nylon nets for taking up the fishes, and ultimately disturbs the water causing pollution. Also in human intervention you can include immersion of idols in water bodies. The water bodies get extremely polluted when the idols after worshipping are being immersed in them and they are not properly degenerated, and causes a huge amount of water pollution. Even the dead bodies are sometimes thrown in water, the carcass of various animals and even the corpse of certain unidentified dead bodies, that also causes water pollution because the aquatic animals are harshly disturbed. Now, what are the effects of water pollution, or what are the reasons for which we consider water pollution to be very dangerous, that is the aftermaths of water pollution. The first one is diseases. Cholera is one of the disease that is caused by water. Water-borne organisms carry cholera in them and transmit from one individual to another. And how this cholera bacteria comes in water? The paper industries usually dispose mercury obtaining compounds. Those compounds hugely disturbs the water and also gives proper environment for bacterium to grow, thus causing waterborne diseases. The second one is dissolved oxygen is lessened. What happens is the aquatic organisms make use of the dissolved oxygen present in the water for the purpose of respiration. When this dissolved oxygen present in water is disturbed, the balance is disturbed. How the balance is disturbed? The balance is disturbed because of the fact that immersion of this type of fertilizer or say sewage or the water after treatment of industries reduces the level of oxygen in the water, and when the water oxygen level is reduced, it causes problem because the aquatic organisms lack or do not get adequate amount of water for respiration. The third point is larvae and eggs are destroyed. For example, if this water after industrial treatment is very hot, this hot water is directly released into the original water body. Definitely the larvae and the eggs of the fish who are residing in the water body will be hugely disturbed, because this hot water will cause the shell of the egg to become very soft, and ultimately the larva may also die. And the last is depletion in the number of aquatic animals, that is, even birds, aquatic animals, and those animals who feed upon them like birds. So what happens is, after Mata water pollution causes the reduction in the number of the aquatic animals, the aquatic animals get hugely reduced, they are killed, and after they are being killed, the balance of the ecological system is totally disturbed, because a huge number of gaps comes around when the aquatic animals are removed all of a sudden from their food chain. So this depletion in number of the aquatic animals hugely disturbs the food chain and food web, ultimately disturbing the ecological balance. So in a nutshell, if I conclude, then the effects of water pollution are, they causes waterborne disease, they disturbs the level of the dissolved oxygen, and finally lets the organism suffer a lot because they lack oxygen. Third one is the larvae and the eggs of the aquatic animals are disturbed because of the hot water on the high temperature of the water. And the fourth point is there is depletion in the number of aquatic animals because the aquatic animals die profusely because of the water pollution. So what is our responsibility, children? Our responsibility is to decrease this water pollution as much as possible, because all these are man-made causes. We are responsible for this water pollution. What we should do is, we should not dispose the direct water after industrial treatment. We should see that the water draining fertilizers should not directly go to the original source. Sewage is not to be thrown in water, rather they should be processed in sewage treatment channels. Idols should not be directly immersed in water, and even if it is immersed, then the hard skeletal part should be taken off from the water so that it does not cause pollution. So it is we human beings who must take up this challenge, as we have taken for air pollution, to fight against this deadly problem and finally relieve the entire population from water pollution. So the last topic for today, as per natural resources, is the soil and the mineral riches present in the soil.